June is one of those months that looks simple on a calendar but gets complicated fast when you're trying to plan a trip. It's not quite summer, not quite spring, and the difference between a great June destination and a frustrating one usually comes down to timing. The weather shifts quickly, the crowds start to build, and some places feel completely different from one week to the next. I've learned that over the years of traveling in early summer. Sometimes by luck, and sometimes by choosing wrong and realizing it halfway through a hike or a train ride. What I've noticed is that June rewards the places that aren't trying to be peak season destinations. The places where the landscape, the weather, and the way people live line up naturally this time of year. Not the obvious summer must-see spots, but the ones that feel balanced. Warm, but not sweltering. Lively, but not too crowded. Open, but not overwhelmed. June is when these places make the most sense. And I'm Erin, and this is the Scenic Route Traveler. Every year around this time, I start paying attention to the destinations that genuinely work in June. The ones where the season works with you instead of against you. The one where the days stretch long, the heat hasn't quite settled in, and the crowds haven't quite taken over. That's what this video is, 10 places that make sense in June in Europe. And a few things to know before you go so you can make the most of it. Switzerland is one of the most reliable places to visit in June because everything that people came here to do becomes possible at the same time. The Lauterbrunnen Valley sits between two mountain railways, and June is when the snow finally clears off the lower trails and the transport schedules go full-time. That combination, open trails and full access, is what makes this month work so well here. The waterfalls here are at their strongest from the snowmelt, and the mornings are clearer than they are in July, and the temperatures stay cool enough that long hikes are actually enjoyable. If you go, take the first cable car up to Morin. The village is quiet at that hour, and you get the kind of views people assume require a full day climb. One thing I learned early on, the valley floor is completely flat. Even if you're not a big hiker, you can walk for miles with scenery that looks like it belongs in a postcard. A small detail people often miss, the train cars and cable cars get crowded fast after 10 a.m. The first time I came here, I didn't realize how quickly the lines built up and ended up waiting almost an hour just to get back down. Since then, I've always booked mountain transports online the night before. It's a bit cheaper and you skip the queues entirely. If you want a quieter base, stay in Wengen. It's car-free and has some of the best early summer light in the region and gives you access to both sides of the valley. Porto is one of the few European cities that's genuinely pleasant in June. The heat hasn't quite settled in yet, the evening's still a bit breezy, and the city feels like it's built for wandering. June is also when the Douro Valley turns deep green and the terraces look carved into the mountain. Not dry, not dusty, just alive. If you go, take the train from Porto to Pinhão. It's slow, but it gives you a sense of the river's shape, the bends, the vineyards, the tiny stations that feel frozen in time. The first time I rode it, I remember realizing halfway through that the train itself was part of the experience, not just the transportation. And here's the tip that matters. Skip the really big wineries and book a tasting at a smaller quinta. You get better views, fewer people, and you're not rushed through the experience. June is also when the river cruises are still calm. By July, they're packed and the heat settles into the valley. If you want a simple moment that doesn't require planning, walk across the Dom Luis I bridge at sunset. The whole city glows and you get one of the best views of Porto for free. A practical thing that people sometimes get wrong is staying in the busiest part of the Riviera. It's beautiful but loud. Vila Nova de Gaia gives you the same view with half the noise and easier access to the riverfront. Mallorca in June is the version of the island that people who actually know Mallorca talk about. It's not just the big party coast and not the resort strips. The Tramontana Mountains. Sóller, Dea, and Fornalutx sit in a landscape that feels older than tourism itself. And June is when everything lines up. Much warmer days, cool mornings, and the sea temperatures that finally feel like summer without that crowds that hit in July. If you go, start with the wooden train from Palma to Sóller. It's slow, but it gives you a sense of the island's geography, with citrus trees, terraced hillsides, pockets of farmland tucked between the mountains. The first time I got to this area of the island, I was immediately hit with everything I was hoping for when I came to spend time in Mallorca. If you're hoping for some world-class hiking, try going on parts of the GR 221, which is a 150-kilometer long-distance trail that traverses Mallorca's Serra de Tramuntana mountains. You can also hike the full trail at once if you're feeling ambitious. And here's what most people get wrong about going to Mallorca. They go straight to the big beaches. The best swimming in June is in the coves along the west coast. Caladea is the obvious one, but if you walk a little further along the rocks, you'll find quieter spots with deeper, clear water. Parking is still a bit more manageable in June, but it fills up fast, so I would arrive before 10 a.m. or after 5 p.m. The Cotswolds in June look exactly the way people imagine England looks like at the time, but rarely actually does. This is the month where the gardens spill over and the footpaths dry out. The villages feel lived in rather than staged. June gives you long evenings, milder temperatures, and enough daylight to wander without rushing. If you go, start with a short walk between Upper and Lower Slaughter. It's flat, quiet, and gives you a sense of how the villages connect through fields and streams rather than the roads. From there, you can reach Stow on the Wold, Burton on the Wall, and Burberry within minutes. A practical thing people sometimes get wrong is visiting on the weekends. The Cotswolds fill up fast with day trippers from London. A Tuesday morning feels like a completely different pace. It's a bit quieter, slower, and easier to navigate. If you want a base that's central without being crowded, stay on Stow on the Wold. It's elevated, breezy, and some of the best pubs in the region. June is also when the pub gardens open. It sounds simple, but ending a day of walking with a pint in the gardens surrounded by stone cottages, climbing roses, is one of the most Cotswolds things you can do. And if you want a small, memorable moment, walk through Castle Combe in early evening. The light hits the stone in a way that makes the whole village feel timeless. Copenhagen in June feels like a city that's been waiting all year for this moment. The days stretch late into the evening, the air stays cool, and the entire city moves outside. Biking, sitting by the canals, gathering in parks, swimming in the harbor baths. June is when Copenhagen feels open, not rushed, and the weather works with you instead of against you. If you go, rent a bike for at least a day. It's the easiest way to understand how the city fits together. The bike lanes, the neighborhoods, the rhythm of daily life. The first time I biked here, I remember realizing how natural it felt within minutes. Copenhagen isn't a city where you try biking. It's a city where biking is the default. For food, skip the expensive restaurants and head to one of the food halls. They're cheaper, faster, and give you a better sense of what locals might actually eat. June is also when the harbor baths open, and yes, you can swim in the city. The water is clean, the atmosphere is relaxed, and it's one of the most uniquely Copenhagen things you can do. Something I might recommend is staying outside of Nyhavn. It's beautiful but crowded. Look at some of the nearby neighborhoods that feel lived in and gives you easier access to the rest of the city. Cinque Terre in June is the version people imagine when they picture this coastline. It's warm, colorful, and full of movement without tipping into the chaos of July. The trails are usually open, the ferries run frequently, and the heat hasn't quite settled in yet. June gives you that sweet spot where the villages feel alive but not overwhelmed, and the water is warm enough for a bit of a longer swim without the crowds that come later. If you go, take the ferry between villages at least once. Seeing the cliffs from the water gives you a completely different sense of scale. The terraces, the stacked houses, the way each village fits into the coastline. The first time I took the ferry, I remember realizing how small the villages actually are compared to the landscape around them. It makes the whole region feel a bit more human. A practical thing that sometimes people get wrong is assuming Monterosso is the best base because it has the biggest beach. It's convenient but crowded. Cornelia is the quietest village, and because it sits higher up, mornings there feel calm in a way that the others don't. If you want a balance, stay in Manarola. It's easier access to the water, has great food, and fewer day trippers. June is also when the lemon groves are at their best. You'll smell them before you see them. And if you want a simple, memorable moment, sit on the rocks in Manarola at sunset. It's busy, but the view is worth sharing. Lake Como in June feels like the lake is waking up. The ferry is moving across the water, gardens in full bloom, and mountains that still hold on to a bit of spring coolness. June is warm, but not heavy, and the lake breezes keep everything a bit more comfortable. It's the month when you can explore without overheating and enjoy the water without freezing. If you go, take the ferry from Varenna to Bellagio in the late afternoon. The light hits the water in a way that makes the whole lake feel wider. The first time I made that crossing, I remember watching the mountains shift color as the sun dropped. It's one of those very simple moments that does stay with you. For a quieter base, stay in Varenna. It's smaller, calmer, and easier to navigate than Bellagio, especially in early summer. A practical thing sometimes people get wrong is eating at the lakefront restaurants. They are expensive and often mediocre. I might walk a few streets back and you'll find better food, prices, and a bit fewer people. June is also when the villas open their gardens. Villa Monastero is the easiest one to enjoy without crowds, and the Lakeside Pass is one of the best walks in the region. Asturias is one of the most underrated places in Europe in June. The coastline around Ribadesella and Llanes looks rugged in a way that doesn't feel curated. There's cliffs, coves, quiet beaches, and water that stays cool even as the day warms up. June gives you long daylight, mild temperatures, and a coastline that feels wild without being too inaccessible. If you go, drive down the road to Covadonga Lakes early in the morning. The cows will wander across the road, the air is crisp, and the views open up slowly as you climb. Plan to stop more than you planned because every turn revealed something new. It's not a long route, but it's one of the most memorable in northern Spain. And something to note for June travel is assuming the weather will stay consistent. Asturias changes fast. I would bring a light rain jacket even if the forecast looks perfect. June is also cider season, and if you've never had Asturian cider poured from the shoulder height, it's worth it for that alone. Austria Salzkammergut region works in June because the lakes finally warm up. Hallstatt is the name everyone knows, but the surrounding lakes are where early summer actually feels good. The mornings are still cool, the afternoons warm up, and the water is clear enough that you'll see people swimming before work. June gives you that mix of mountain air and lake days that's hard to beat. If you go, walk the loop around Cotswolds. It's flat, quiet, and the view of the glacier at the far end is one of the best in the region. The first time I saw it, I remember being surprised by how still the water was. It reflects the mountains perfectly. Something to note about visiting Hallstatt is visiting in the middle of the day. The day trip crowds make it feel smaller than it is, so I would recommend going before 9 a.m. or after 5 p.m. and the village feels like a real place again. June is also when the alpine huts start opening for the season. Even if you're not hiking, stop for a drink, the views are worth it. The Causeway Coast in Northern Ireland is one of the most striking coastlines in Europe, and June is the month when the weather finally starts to cooperate. The cliffs, the basalt columns, the wind that never quite settles, everything feels sharper this time of year. June gives you long daylight, mild temperatures, and a coastline that feels dramatic without being harsh. If you go, walk the trail between the Giant's Causeway and Dunsubbrick Castle. It's not difficult, and the views change constantly. There's cliffs, fields, sea stacks, and stretches of coastline that feel untouched. An important note about visiting is to avoid going midday. The causeway fills fast and feels smaller when it's crowded. Go early or late, and the light is better, the wind is calmer, and the whole area feels a bit more open. June is also when the puffins return to the cliffs. I would recommend checking the timing because it's worth it. June is a month that rewards attention. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand anything, it just gives you these places, mountains, coastlines, villages, cities, and lets you decide how to move through them. If you're planning a trip this June, these are the places I'd look toward. Not because they're perfect, but because they make sense this time of year. And that's sometimes all you need. So thanks for watching and happy travels.